There we go. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's so good to be with you on this fine Mother's Day. Um, want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, and I'm very excited about this lesson on today. So we're going to dive right in. If you're checking us out on Facebook, go ahead and like, hit share, and share this so that the message of God gets around and has an opportunity to infiltrate some places that we weren't expecting it to infiltrate. I'm gonna switch mics. All right, there we go, there we go, there we go. Our lesson today is coming from the book of Isaiah, the 29th chapter. Specifically, we are looking at starting at verse 13, going to the end of the chapter. Um, and Man, just a powerful lesson. Got a lot from it. Hoping to share with you, and I'm hoping it blesses you the way it blessed me as I prepared for today. Uh, so, by way of introduction, though, I think that it's really important for us to understand before we begin to discuss 13 that we understand the context of this lesson, that we understand what Isaiah is doing and what is going on. So, probably one of the most important words in this entire chapter is the word woe. Woe, that is, alas, that is a warning that Isaiah is getting, which was typical of Isaiah. He gave many warnings to Israel throughout the entire book of Isaiah, but this chapter starts there. Um, and it is, he calls out uh, Jerusalem in particular, he calls it Ariel. And that's in Isaiah 29, verse 1. He calls it Ariel, which is interpreted the lioness of God. And so when you look at that, you're like, well, who is he talking about? What is Ariel? He's talking about Jerusalem. He's talking about the lioness of God. And I mean, to be perfectly honest, if we study the history of Jerusalem at all, then we know that they're at it again. God has given some edicts, He's given some instruction, He's given them a way to do things, and they have decided to go out on their own and do what they wanted to do. We're going to do it our way, not God's way. And so here we see a part of God that we don't often talk about, and that is the side of God that uh, allows his wrath to come, the side of God that punishes. Um, and we don't ever want to look at God as a punisher. We only want to look at him for his grace, for his mercy, for his loving kindness, for his willingness to have his only son die on a cross that we might be reunited with him. But you cannot get away from the Old Testament without seeing bouts where God is angry with his people for their rebellion and their disobedience. So much so, at one point in history, Moses had to talk him down. They were in the wilderness and they were doing what Israel did. They were ungrateful and talking about that God had brought them out in the wilderness to die, and how come you didn't just leave us back in Egypt? And God was sick of them and was like, yeah, I'm just gonna I'm gonna erase this and start all over. I'm gonna take them out and I'm gonna start all over. And Moses was like, hold on, God, if you do that, what is that gonna say to the nations? That you rescued this people and you brought them out to the wilderness only to kill them. And so God has that side of him. And so This entire chapter, it starts out with that, and it talks about Israel and what they're doing and what is about to happen to them. That they are going to be distressed, that they are going to be taken over. But as God will do, the ones that would take them over will be defeated as well. He reproofs sinners in that, and you can break those down into three categories. One writer said that he reproofs the stupid, is his term for it, calling them stupid because they didn't know. In spite of all the evidence of God and all the evidence of what God wanted done, they still somehow, they heard the prophet, what the prophet said, they heard all of that, but they just didn't, they couldn't get the message. So the writer called them stupid. And then you have the hypocritical, which really is going to be a line into our lesson today. And these were people that acted like, said, "Hey, I love God and I'm serving God," but they were really doing some other things. And then you had the schemers, which we're also going to talk about today. And so let's get into it, unless we lose time. Very important lesson. Isaiah chapter 29, verses 13. I'm reading from the New English translation. It says, "The sovereign master says, these people say they are loyal to me. They say wonderful things about me, but they are not really loyal to me. Their worship consists of nothing but man-made ritual." And I'm like, wow. Wow. As a matter of fact, if we were going to tag this lesson, we would tag it empty rituals. And so what is God saying? What is Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, is this message from God that he's saying? He's saying basically that people are showing up. If I may contemporize this text, he's saying the people are coming to church. I mean, they're at church every week. You know, church starts at 10:45. It starts at 11 o'clock. It starts whatever time you used to going to church. And, I mean, they show up church ritually every week. And they read the scripture and they sing a song or two. And, you know, the preacher preaches and they have some announcements. And then they leave there and they come back and they do it again the next week. And they do it again the next week, and they do it again the next week. And so they had the ritual, they had the tradition of going to worship. They had the tradition of being there. They were ritualistic in their practice. But what God says is that their heart was far from me. Now, how is it that we can go to church on a regular basis, that we can hear the choir sing on a regular basis, that we can hear the preacher preach on a regular basis, and some of us are good Christians, we can come to Sunday school on a regular basis and hear the teacher teach on a regular basis, and some of us are even better than that. We come to prayer meeting and Bible study on Wednesday on a regular basis. And some of us, we sing in the choir. We come to choir rehearsal on a regular basis. And we hear the songs that are devoted to worshiping God. And we practice the songs that are devoted to worshiping God so that we may render them in service. And how is it that we can be partaking of all of that? And God's assessment of it is, yes, you're doing all of that, but your heart is far from me. Your heart's not in it. Your heart is not in what you're doing. And I want to present to you, and I want to put this out there for you, that all of those things that were man-made rituals, these man-made rituals that they were doing, going to worship and, dare I say, going through the motions. And let me say this, going through the motions does not necessarily mean apathy. You could be going through the motions and having a high time in the Lord and still going through the motions. They were going through the motions, but God's assessment is that their heart was far from them. Why? And I've said this when I've had the opportunity to teach our children, when we were all together and having children's church and that kind of thing. And I'll tell anybody that listens, I'm not afraid that God is more interested in what you do Monday through Saturday than he is what you do on Sunday when you show up in the building. That is the testimony of whether or not your heart is really for God. That is the testament of your life as a worshiper. It is not showing up at church on a regular basis, ritualistically at the right time. And, not only do we show up at the right time, if I may bring this into 2021, we know what to do. We still know what to do. We know when to stand, when to sit, when to raise our hands, when to walk, when not to walk. I mean, we have all of that down. And God is looking at our ritual, and he's looking at this thing, and he's saying, yeah, but your heart is far from me. And I want to posit a theory with you as we sit here on May 9th, Mother's Day, as the reports are coming out. If you pay attention to the news, read the news, watch the news, that the vaccination numbers are continuing to increase, that states are now projecting dates where they're going to fully open. And you are to be able to go to a restaurant and the tables, you can sit next to somebody and the tables won't be every other table. That you'll be able to go to the ball game and you'll be able to do all the things that we say we missed over this past year during this pandemic. But I want to submit something to you, that maybe God allowed this to grab our attention because we have become like the children of Israel. We have become ritualistic. We have become traditional. We were more concerned about our traditions and our ritual as whether or not our worship was pure. And here's the thing, and I've said this before, worship is a lifestyle. Our collective worship should be energized, should be fed by the worship that we have been doing all week. And worship, is more than did I raise my hand when my song came on, did I drop a tear of conviction when I heard that word. But I'm going to posit for you that worship is found in our obedience to God's word. And that's what God was getting at right here in this 13th verse. Yeah, y'all coming. Yeah, y'all coming. Y'all come on a regular basis. You know, y'all do the ritual thing. You sacrifice and you burn the incense and you do all of that kind of stuff. But when I examine your heart is far from me because you're not living how I want you to live. You're not doing the things that I want you to do. And so the testimony of our life, the testimony of our worship really has more to do with how obedient am I to God on Monday and on Tuesday, on Wednesday. When somebody tries to provoke me to anger, how do I respond? On Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday, and on Saturday. And so we look at this text, and it's a jarring text, not just for what Israel was going through, but as we look at it for today. And I will say this, I will throw this in here, as the old preacher would say, for free, that we as the people of God have to be careful about a desire to run back to normal. That maybe God was trying to break up the normal. I was talking with some friends on yesterday, and I said, what is our commission? What was the last thing that left with us? To go ye therefore into all the world, teaching all nations. And right now, as some of you are watching me on Facebook and on stream and online and with this platform, we now have access to the entire world that we have never had access to before, like never before. And isn't that what God wanted us to do? He wanted us to reach the world. Well, before now, reaching the world meant I had to get in my car and I had to go somewhere. I had a plane ticket to drive somewhere. I had to take a bus, a train. I had to get somewhere in order to witness to somebody that may have been somewhere different than where I live. And now, man, if you hit like, if you hit share on Facebook and your friends see it and they share it with a friend and they share it with a friend, this little bit of Sunday school lesson could reach all across the country in a matter of 15 minutes just from sharing it. And all of a sudden we're reaching others in other states and in other countries that we never had an opportunity to reach. Holding up the edict that God said for us to do to reach the world. And so we have to be cautious about getting back to what we call normal. Because what was normal for Israel, God deemed it as man-made rituals and said that, yes, you got the stuff right, but your heart is far from me. And so in verse 14, he says, therefore I will again do amazing things for these people, an absolutely extraordinary deed. Wise men will have nothing to say. The sages will have no explanations. We've seen this before. We have seen this before. God says, I'm gonna do something that's so beyond that it's gonna leave the preachers speechless. It's gonna leave the prophets speechless. It's gonna leave the wise men speechless and unable to explain it or to comprehend it. And haven't we seen that before? Hasn't God done that before? Didn't he do that for Israel, Egypt? Didn't he do some things that had never been seen before? Didn't he take them across the Red Sea on dry land? God has done miracles before, and he says, I'm going to do something amazing again. Because his desire, even when he gets upset with us for our disobedience and our lack of care and our falling into ritual, his desire is still to be reunited with us. His desire is still to be reunited with us. And so he says, I'm going to do something that defies all explanation. And so in verse 15, he said, those who try to hide their plans from the Lord are as good as dead, who do their work in secret and boast. Who sees this? Who knows what we're doing? Listen, there's nothing new under the sun. And so we hear in this text right here, we see it. You've done it, I've done it. Gone away in a corner, thinking we doing something, hiding from God. And God's laughing like, Man, I see it all. And so what he's referring to in this text is schemers. And not just, this is not just about sin. I mean, we can personalize this and talk about the things that we do in the dark, and we claim that we love God. We say we love him above all others, but then we doing things that do not honor him, that do not bring him glory at all. We've all done it. We're all guilty. We got that. I'm not special because I'm up here teaching this lesson. My hands are dirty too. I've done it. The things we've done in the dark that we think we are getting away with, and God sees it all. But this is even talking about these men in church that are meeting in secret in dark corners, devising plans for the church without consulting God, without checking in with the author and the finisher and the foundation of the church. And so we see that here in this text, and God is saying that, yeah, I see. I see what you're doing. You're not hiding from me. And all of those plans that you claim to be doing, that are you doing in secret because you hatching a plan, they're good as dead. Those secrets that you boast about in the corners when you get with your clique, talking about we gonna get him, or we gonna get this, or this is gonna be how we want it, and we gonna do it this way. God's like, no, I see all of that. That's not what this is about. That's not what my church is about. That's not what we should be doing. And so I'm going to do this fantastic, this absolutely mind-blowing thing that is going to be beyond all expectation and explanation. And even those schemers are going to be revealed. Those people that are hiding in dark corners, hiding their hands, throwing a rock and hiding their hands. Why is it that we just refuse to understand that God sees it all, that he knows it all? You know, we treat God like my glasses right here. I have them off because I don't need them. I need them for distance. I can't see if I put them on while I'm trying to read this right here. But this is how we treat God sometimes. Oh God, that vision is too clear. Let me take these off and let me put these up. Oh, I can't see. So I'm going to act like I can't see, and I'm going to just do what I want to do. And then when the consequences of our action come up, we pick up the glasses, and now we crying and snotting and talking about, God, why are you letting this happen to me? Why are you letting this happen to us? You know, a question that I've been asking even as we are coming out of the pandemic and all of that kind of thing is, God, what was your reason? What were we supposed to learn? What was the purpose? And I realize, and I'm not exceptional in this. We all know somebody that maybe passed away during this pandemic from the virus. We know somebody that had the virus and recovered. We all know that. But guess what? All things work together for the good of those that love God and are called according to his purpose. So even this entire year, God, what were you doing? This was one of the biggest shakeups in church history. We just couldn't do what we would normally do. And some of us were in lament and mourning because we couldn't do what we would normally do. But the question that kept coming to me, and it came to me, hit me hard as I studied this lesson, is, God, what was the reason for it? What was the purpose behind it? And I looked at that, especially that 13, and I was like, man, we have become ritualistic. And from our definition of it, the way we look at it, it wasn't bad. I mean, I was coming to church every week. I was singing in a choir. I was usher. I was on the usher board. I was doing things. I was working in church. God's like, man, I got it, but the picture is bigger than what you see. And so I got to shake some things up so that you can see the picture differently. And so God here in this, Isaiah in this 15th chapter, and these are the words from the Lord, in case I didn't make that clear, this is Isaiah speaking, but he is the mouthpiece for God in this text. And he says that, man, there are people trying to hide their plans from the Lord. You can't hide from God. You can't, whatever dirt you trying to do, whatever thing you trying to do over in the corner in the dark, you can't hide from God. That is impossible. Why we try, I have no idea. As a matter of fact, if anything comes out of this lesson, let's resolve to stop doing this. Let's stop trying to act like God can't see what we do. I think we might save ourselves some pain and some heartache and some tears and some frustration if we just realize, actually, two things: that God sees it all, so I'm not really hiding anything from him. But this clear and important message, the testimony of my worship and my love of God, is my obedience to how I live. And here's the thing. Life is an open book test. If you've been in school, when that big test, when the teacher tells you it's open book, or that you can have your notes out for the test, and so you get your note cards, you get your notes, so just in case, you study, but you got your stuff just in case you hit something that you didn't remember, and the teacher gives you the opportunity. God has given us an open book test. He tells us the goal: I want you to have life and have it more abundantly. I want to bless you. I want to bless you. But here's the deal: you got to do it my way. Not your way, my way. It's an open book test about how should I handle my money, God. It's in here. It's in here. As a matter of fact, Jesus talks about money. We don't talk about Jesus talking about money very much, but Jesus talked about money a lot. He's like, what you need? It's in here. How do I treat my enemies? It's in here. How do I treat my friends? It's in here. And the litmus test for where we are and our worship is not our showing up and how fervently we sing songs and whether or not we shout and cry and run and scream, but it is, how are you living your life? Are you living a life of faith, or are you living a life based on the things that you see? I got hit with this a couple of weeks ago, this realization that faith has more to do with your mindset than it does your feelings. See, when you believe God up here, then it's not hard to have faith. It's not hard to trust. Because when you know him and you believe him, well, how do I get to know him? Open book test. This is how we get to know him. Spend time with him. You know, I was thinking about this on the way in the morning. God is the only one we want to be in relationship with that we don't spend no time with. We want to have a good, strong relationship with God, but we don't want to spend any time with him. How would that work with your wife, your husband? That you're going to have a good, strong relationship, but you don't spend no time with each other. How does that work? How does it work when you have a good relationship with your siblings and you don't never spend no time with each other? Man, it's like a general law. We know if I'm if I'm in a relationship with somebody, I got to spend some time with them. I had to get to know them so I know what they like and what they don't like. I have to do that. Especially if I'm single and I'm dating. I'm definitely going all in on to get to know you because I'm trying to impress you. But with God, I see you on Sunday. I don't have time to do no devotion on Monday. I don't have time to memorize the scripture on Tuesday. Prayer, I just forgot. I got so much to do. I'm so busy, and we rip and run and all of that. But we expect to be in intimate relationship with God without spending any time with him. There's no relationship on the planet Earth where that is possible, but we expect now God does do the impossible. And the impossible in this is that he continues to reach out for us in spite of our rejection of him. And hear me well, this is the theme of this lesson. Our rejection of him doesn't have to do with whether or not we go to a building, whether or not in these days and time I jump on the stream and I watch the Sunday school lesson. I jump on YouTube and I watch the preacher. No. Are you living how God wants you to live? Are you being obedient to his word? Verse 16, your thinking is perverse. Should the potter be regarded as clay? Should the thing made say about its maker, he didn't make me? Or should the pottery say about the potter, he doesn't understand? Man. Okay, so I'm not going to ask anybody at home to raise your hand or anything like that or pinch yourself or anything like that. But how many times have we fixed our lips to say that God don't understand what we're going through? And this is basically this text is saying, how dare you? How dare you fix your lips to say the one who created you doesn't understand? How dare you fix yourself and have an attitude or even have the mindset to say to yourself that somehow that God who made you and made you with a purpose does not understand you and doesn't understand what he made you for and why he made you and doesn't understand what it is that he needs you to do and he wants you to do. But have we done it? And the truth of the matter is that most of the time it takes some disingenuousness on our part. Because if we really are honest about some of the stuff we've been in, we know it was a consequence of some decisions that we made. And some stuff that we did, and maybe some stuff we did more than once, but the first time God said, I'm going to let you slide. I'm not going to get you this time. Don't do that no more. And then when we finally get caught in the sauce, it's like, oh Lord, why are you letting this happen to me? Anybody ever say that? Why am I going through this? And he said, really? I made you. I made you. So how is it that you could fix yourself to say, he didn't make me? God didn't make me for that. What? Really? You sure about that now? God who created the heaven and the earth. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness therein. From the dirt. I saw a picture yesterday on the I don't know how genuine the picture is, so I don't know if I should say this, but I just found it interesting. They showed a picture of a fingerprint, and they showed a picture of a tree that had been cut, and they showed like the stump of the tree, and they showed how similar that those signs in the stump of the tree were to the fingerprint. Now you think about this. We were made from the dust of the earth. We are made from the dust of the earth, people. There ain't nothing in this planet that, as a matter of fact, now this is scientific. The things that are that people use to let me see, how do I want to say this? Enjoy themselves. All of them foreign things that they put in their body, they already are in the body. That's why when you put them in the body, it throws everything out of balance, and it causes you to be high, be drunk. It's because there's nothing naturally occurring in the world that doesn't occur in us. We were made from the earth. Which is why, quiet as this is kept, a lot of times if we are healthy and we're eating like we should and we're getting the nutrients that we should from the ground, we can be some amazingly healthy people. Because God put it all here for us. We're from the earth. So how would somebody that's made by God fix themselves to say I wasn't made by him? And this is really, if you think about it, this is one of those people that would dare to say there is no God. I don't believe in him. Huh? Okay. To each his own. But Romans 1 tells us that man is without excuse. Because God reveals himself. You don't have to ever darken the door of a church to understand that there is a God. Because God reveals himself every day. When the sun rises and sets and the moon hangs in the sky, when spring comes and everything just knows to bud and to grow, and when the fall comes and everything shrivels up and falls off of the tree, and when winter comes and it looks barren, and when spring comes again and it cycles again, the Bible says that God reveals himself every day. If you were to leave nature alone, yes, a lion, because we're out of balance, because we're not at peace because of the fall of man. But the lion is not going to kill up all the food. They're going to kill enough for them to eat. And what you will find is in the ecosystem that everything will be balanced. That everything would be balanced. And so we don't understand. And so then in the bottom of this text, we get to, God starts to talk about the changes that are on the way. The changes that are coming. He says in just a very short time, Lebanon will turn into an orchard, and the orchard will be considered a forest. At that time, the deaf will be able to hear words read from a scroll, and the eyes of the blind will be able to see through the deep darkness. Look at God. Now he's pointing, and we know about Isaiah. Isaiah's pointing He's pointing. He said, this is coming. This is coming. We're starting to see, once again, as he talks about this Holy One that's coming. And if you think about it, that is like the super phenomenal thing that was on the way that God did. Not ever before in history and not ever since had a man been born from the seed of a woman. That was so miraculous and phenomenal that here we are 2,000 years after, 2,021 years after the death of Christ, and men are still debating how it is that Jesus was born. Who was this man named Jesus? They are still debating that. How it happened. Was the crucifixion real? That is how miraculous, that's how beyond all of our explanations. As a matter of fact, we accept it because we believe it because of our faith in God. You can't get to that consciously, logically. The downtrodden will again rejoice in the Lord. The poor among humankind will take delight in the Holy One of Israel. And so God begins to lift it up. And once again, he's pointing. Look at Jesus' ministry. Who was Jesus' ministry to? It's what had the Israelites hung up when Jesus came. Because he sat down with sinners. And he went in places that they didn't think he should be going. And he ministered to the poor and the downtrodden. He wasn't hanging out with the elites. He wasn't hanging out with the men of power. He was with the regular folks who had been downtrodden, pressed underfoot, persecuted, prosecuted. And then in verse 20 it says, for tyrants will disappear, those who taunt will vanish, and all of those who love to do wrong will be eliminated. Here's the deal, your day is coming. God does not let anybody get away with anything. It is against his character to do so. Because we can't never see the comeuppance. We think that the comeuppance never comes. But the comeuppance is coming. Tyrants, they're going to be gone. Men with power who treat people wrong are going to be gone. And here's the thing, people who love wrong will be eliminated. Here's the thing, man. There are some people that love wrong. They love wrong. I've seen it. We all know them. We all know somebody that loves drama. If there's some drama somewhere, that they can be found. They love the mess. They love to make a mess. They love to cause a mess. They love to be in a mess. We all know somebody like that. But here is our responsibility, and again, here we go back to obedience to God. Our responsibility is not to worry about them or when they're gonna come. When they come up, it's just coming. But that comes down to trusting God. And what did God say? Yeah, I know they did you wrong. Vengeance is mine. I'll repay it. Forgive them. Forgive them. Keep moving. Don't worry about it. The day is coming. But God, I want to see it. I want to have a front row seat. Do you understand what they did to me, how they hurt me, what happened to me, all the mess that they're causing my life? I need to have a front row seat with my popcorn so that I can see. God's like, don't worry about it. Vengeance is mine. I'm going to take care of it. I saw what they did to you. I'm moving quick because my time is short. Those who bear false testimony against a person, lying on somebody, who entrap the one who arbitrates at the sitting gate and deprive the innocent of justice by making false charges. Huh? You mean all of this stuff with Black Lives Matter and all this stuff that we've been seeing in the justice system? You mean that stuff? Yes. There's nothing new under the sun. We have to get to a point where we know God enough that we stand firm on him. Not that we're complacent about what goes on in our world, but we have to approach things through the lens of God, standing on his word. The linchpin of actually this whole chapter is what chapter 13 says. Verse 13 says. Y'all doing all the right stuff, but your heart is wrong. It's far from me. And your heart is far from me because you're not in intimate relationship with me. And you're not in intimate relationship with me because you don't spend any time with me. And because you don't spend any time with me, you don't have any understanding to know what I'm doing and when I'm moving. And you don't have the book open for the test, so you don't know how I want you to live your life. And here's the bad part. We don't trust God that if we live his life according to what he tells us to live his life, that everything, because here's the deal, this will blow you away. Everything that you can conceive of in your mind and heart, Paul says in Ephesians that even that does not compare to what God has in mind for you. So that means that if I can find my way to live how God wants me to live, then not only the things that I conceive in my mind can happen, but things beyond what I can ask or think will be brought into my life. And all I have to do is be obedient and show him that I love him and worship him in truth by being obedient to him. I mean, that's it right there. That's the most important. That's the linchpin of this whole lesson. My time is short. The back half of this lesson is really just talking about all the things that God is going to be doing. So this is what the Lord, the one who delivered Abraham, says to the family of Jacob. Jacob will no longer be ashamed. Their faces will no longer show their embarrassment. For when they see their children whom I will produce among them, they will honor my name. They will honor the Holy One of Jacob. They will respect the God of Israel. Those who stray morally will gain understanding, and those who complain will acquire insight.